What drew Mavis into the journal was her need. She needed to know what happened to that child in August 1967. Who are these children? What is their story? Reusing old graves. This is Short Stories by J.B. Simien. In July of 2014, Jeff and Mavis McNeely spend most of their weekends rummaging through garage sales in the Fairwood neighborhood of Renton, Washington. They wanted to purchase amateur photos, old letters, and folk art. After enhancing an item's creation story, they would resell it on the internet at a premium price. Surprisingly, there is a strong niche market for the details of other people's lives. It was Mavis who discovered the journal at the bottom of a box of old photos they had just purchased that weekend. When she opened it, she found a record of some boy's life from June through August 1967. The writing in the journal was full of lined out sentences and misspelled words. The name of the writer was never disclosed. There were some names in the journal: Cindy, Sam, George, Lynn, and Pete, but only the first names. Nobody could be identified. The grammar was also poor. Mavis could barely follow the writer's thoughts. However, as she read, the information drew her into the story. A group of young teens had spent the summer hanging out on the banks of the Cedar River in the outskirts of Renton, Washington. Their ages were unknown, but Mavis estimated that the group was around 12 or 13 years old. The writer was excited about going into the 8th grade at Nielsen Middle School at the end of the summer. That summer, they floated down the river on rafts made from inner tubes. They fished, they had cookouts, they smoked some weed, and they generally spent their time goofing off or trying to have sexual encounters with the girls in the group, which never apparently happened if the journal was to be believed. The thing that shocked Mavis was something that happened to a small boy on August 26, 1967. One of the girls, or was he a boy, Lynn, had been followed to the group's hangout on the banks of the Cedar River by a small boy and his dog. When the boy wouldn't leave, Sam, one of the teen boys in the group, pushed him. The dog became upset and bit Sam. The group decided to teach the boy a lesson. They threw him and his dog into the river. The dog swam out, but the boy did not. At first, they laughed at the boy and cracked jokes. Then he disappeared beneath the water, and too late they realized that this was a serious situation. The journal ended with that entry. Mavis wondered who these children were and what happened to them. She looked for information on the internet. She found an article in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer archive. August 30th, 1967, Renton, Washington. The body of Michael McNeely, age 8, was recovered from the Cedar River yesterday. The boy had been reported missing by his parents on August 27th. They became concerned when the family dog returned home on Saturday without Michael. A search of the area on Sunday by the family and neighbors failed to locate him. The King County Medical Examiner's Office has ruled his death an accidental drowning. Michael McNeely is survived by his parents, Frank and Gwen McNeely, and his brother, Jeff McNeely. The parents in that article are Jeff's parents, now both deceased. The child is Jeff's brother, Michael. Until the discovery of that journal, the family had always believed that Michael had accidentally drowned while playing by the Cedar River. They had no reason to suspect that he'd been murdered. Based upon new information, King County police detectives reopened an investigation into Michael's death. In a few days, they had discovered that the journal was likely written by Jason Davies, the long-deceased cousin of the homeowner where the journal was bought. Jason Davies was involved in an infamous case from 1967. The detectives now believe that Jason's and Michael's deaths may have a tenuous link. In September of 1967, the bodies of Jason Davies, Cindy Bowie, Sam Ferguson, George Morton, Lynn Thomas, and Peter Goodson were discovered at a campsite on the banks of the Cedar River, just outside the town of Renton, Washington, by some sports fishermen. The oldest child was 14, the youngest was 12. Autopsies revealed that the children had ingested rat poison mixed with Kool-Aid, alcohol, and lots of sugar. There was no note. No reason was given. Their families never knew if the children had committed suicide or they had been murdered. Now, most of the parents are dead, and the remaining family members are scattered throughout the country. The detective reasoned that, based upon the information in the journal, perhaps it was a group suicide. For the police, that was speculation. No changes were made to the original case conclusions. The information in the journal was added as a footnote to both cases, and everything continued as before. Later that week, Mavis and Jeff visited the graves of Jeff's parents, Frank and Gwen, and his brother Michael. They told them that they think they knew the truth of what happened to Michael. They told them that they loved them and that they would see them again in heaven. Then they visited the graves of Jason Davies, Cindy Bowie, Sam Ferguson, George Morton, Lynn Thomas, and Peter Goodson. They talked to them and begged them to be at peace and said a prayer for their souls. Not all the crimes from that incident in 1967 have been punished and forgiven. There is a living person who found out all those years ago what happened to Michael. He was the person who poisoned those kids by the river. He is the person now saying prayers over their graves with his wife. Reusing old graves. That's something that illuminates us, but still leaves us in darkness. I'm J.B. Simien. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel. There will be more. Also, please leave your comments below. I'd like your feedback. I view these stories as work in progress. Thank you all, and take care.